Welcome to another episode of Industrial Amputation, where you can always expect the unexpected. Today, we welcome all the way from Manchester, England, and the legendary Batcave band Inca Babies, Mr. Harry Stafford. Harry, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for sharing your time with us today.
It's fantastic to be here.
Awesome. All right, let's jump right in, shall we? You released an amazing documentary called Making of Ghost Machine 9, or Ghost Mechanic 9, I'm sorry, by Inca Babies from 80s Whom to 2004, A Short History. That tells the story of your band up to the latest album. We'd love to hear more about the area Hume inside Manchester that you were residing in and how that contributed to the band's inception.
Yeah, it's 2024 indeed. We actually we were aware of this history, and we thought we really needed to actually alert the people about how far we'd gone, or how far we'd come actually, because
Yeah,
the album Ghost Mechanic 9 very much uh, dwelt and actually drew a lot of the experience of those early days. And
yeah,
so the documentary there was all about us, our experience of, I mean, the 1980s. I mean, it's so long ago
yeah,
that we drew so much from. We didn't even realize that we were drawing from a certain ratio, or from the factory bands with Joy Division and all these things around us. Even though we wanted to sound like an American band,
yeah.
we, of course, we sounded as we did it within that sort of industrial landscape.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting. And in that Hume sort of the sink estate, as they call it, that's where we found our mojo, if you like, and that's where we really found the creative possibilities for what we ended up doing.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. Yeah, it was a really, really visceral time for art and for music, especially on the post-punk scene. That's kind of slightly after that, but that was kind of the school I was in, the Batcave University sort of specimen and birthday party and Inca babies.
We actually we called it post punk, but
Yeah,
really it was a
it
bit
was.
more than post punk, because
Yeah.
one of the best years for albums was something like 1979,
Mhm.
um, in terms of post punk. And then by the time that our scene arrived in about 1982 and 1983, it
Yeah.
was another only 3 years later.
Yeah.
So
It,
it
it
was
just
happening so
extended.
quickly.
Yeah. We had all
Extraordinary.
the cool spooky bands were doing their thing, kind of in into their own fully. I mean, like Susie and the Banshees and The Cure and there's some of these other ones that did start late 70s and they're completely coming into their own by 1980, 81, 82,
That's
especially
right. Yeah.
you. And it was just such a fucking beautiful time. Do you have a favorite venue, either to play at or to see a show at from back then?
Uh, well, we were lucky in that we played some really great venues. Obviously, we played the Hacienda. We
Yeah.
played this amazing venue in Birmingham, which is this great big huge hall, which was the King John's Hall, and we played the Hammersmith Odeon. Sorry, no,
Like,
the Hammersmith Clarendon Odeon
yeah.
in London, which was fun. We played it with Jesus and Mary Chain. We played it with I think we played it with the Cult, or Southern Death Cult, and the
Death
New
Cult,
Model
yeah.
Army. And at that sort of time, the two of these venues were amazing. They really did. If you played there, you knew that they were going to be reviewed in all the papers, and you
Mhm.
knew that loads of people would come from all around the country, and basically they would want to be there. I mean, they only held about 2,000 people, these venues, but
Yeah.
there were so many people all around the country who wanted to be there. And so you knew you had people who really cared about it. And that's what made it so exciting.
Yeah. Like the University of London. You got to play there too, I suppose.
We did. We did. We played. Who did we play with? We played with the Redskins, I think, were supporting us, and that was an interesting situation. The guy who introduced us was Seething Wells, who was a brilliant journalist for NME at the time, and he was, of course, very scathing towards us, but of course, he loved us really. But no, I remember that gig. I remember that gig really well. It was, no, yeah. Again, lots of really good venues, certainly from London and all around the UK, certainly.
Yeah, awesome. Did you have any shows that stand out from that time, either that you played or that you saw?
Um, a lot of the time, we were lucky enough to tour around Europe, and there were some big venues we played in Europe. There was a venue in Munich called the Alabama Halle, and we played it with Wire in about
Oh
1987,
man,
I think it was. And that was a tremendous gig,
yeah. Oh
really
my
good.
God.
We actually got interviewed on a local TV station before, and we got to play a couple of songs uh, on a live Munich TV, or I hope it was worldwide, but then it was 1987 or so, so it was probably wasn't that. It was a cable channel, but probably
Yeah.
very limited culture. But no, that was a great venue. We played some fantastic venues, festivals all around. We were lucky enough also to play in Budapest,
Oh wow.
right before the wall came down, or rather before Glasnost in
Yeah.
again 87 or so. We played in the university, and there were everyone sat down in front of us, and we were jumping about on stage, going and they were all sat down, looking very, taking notes. It was that was an interesting thing. But by the end of the gig, we actually said, "Come on, you have to dance now. Pretend this is not a lecture.
Yeah.
Pretend this is your I don't know your evening out, and you're having a laugh." And they did, and they all started dancing
Oh, that's
about the
good.
end of it.
It seems there might have been a little bit of that just going around at the time. I think Virgin Prunes had also done something, a little TV spot thing where they did one of
They
their
did,
performance art
yes.
pieces, and everybody in the crowd's kind of like, "What the hell is going on?" And I freaking live for that stuff. It's amazing. So
Yeah, I was lucky enough to know the manager of the Virgin Prunes, Claude Bisset, who
yeah,
was the VJ at the Hacienda in the 80s. And when they came up to play, he introduced me to them and he said, "This band, man, this fucking band, man," because he was French, "this
yeah,
fucking band, man, they're the greatest fucking band in the world." And I said, "Of course they are, Claude." And
yeah.
they played this fantastic set at the Hacienda. And I remember Claude, who managed, he didn't manage it for long, he managed it for about 2 or 3 years or so.
Yeah.
But they were a fantastic band. We don't hear enough about them because they were great.
Yeah, no, it's still to this day one of my all-time favorite acts
Mm.
ever. And Gavin's just a fucking sweetheart. I was very lucky myself to get to meet him and have a conversation. I think it was a Shag Tobacco tour out in Seattle, and
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
yeah, just I mean, I got a little bit of stage fright right before walking up to him. I was outside smoking. It was back when I still smoked, but I had brought I brought a bag with like all of my Virgin Prunes vinyl in it, and I didn't want to try to get all of it signed, but right before I'm like, what if this is one of those things where you don't want to meet your heroes? What if this is one of these things you don't want to meet your heroes? And he's going to be an asshole, and oh my God! And then I was like, there's no way the person that helped me develop who I am today is going to be an asshole. And he wasn't. He was an absolute
Oh,
dream to talk to. And I'm very much hoping to get a hold of him and see if we can have him on the show at some point, because I know he's got some new stuff coming out. But yeah, that was he was absolutely a delight to talk to. We talked about our moms. It was Mother's Day, and yeah, it's a pretty cool experience.
you see, now that is the kind of meeting you want. A meeting of minds, meeting of experience,
Yeah, yeah.
almost domestic, but at the same time
Yeah,
from the heart.
yeah, it was. And he's like, oh my, you have an awful lot of records there. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I don't want you to sign everything. I want you to pick the one that means the most to you. Sign that one. And he went, that's brilliant. That's like the coolest thing anybody's ever asked me. And
Ah, he got the right one.
so yeah,
You
so he pulled out my my Italian pressing of New Forms of Beauty, and he's like, I've never even seen this before. And that's the one he signed for me. And yeah,
That's brilliant.
that was a great show too. I mean, him and Man Caesar just put on a hell of a show. Anyway,
Oh, superb, yeah.
back to Inca babies.
Uh-huh.
Sorry to go off tangentially there, but
No, no, I'd love to talk about the Virgin Prince.
did
I've
you
only
ever
seen
get
them
a
once.
chance to
They were
see
brilliant.
them?
I saw them, as I say, at the Hacienda, but uh, at that time they were touring at the same time we were. So
Yeah,
of course, well, we were on tour, they were on tour. So of course, we were all in different parts of the world. So we our paths never really crossed. And I always hoped that we'd play a festival together or something, but we never did. So the only time I saw them and uh, and said hello was at that Hacienda gig when Claude introduced me to them, and so sadly I've missed that. I have a few of their records though.
yeah,
I'm looking at my vinyl collection. I couldn't pull one out for you, but I have a couple of records of them because I love them. And as
yeah,
you say, amazing band.
yeah, absolutely, hands down. Awesome, thank you.
There's a quote from the beginning of the documentary from Isaac Rose, which states, "The irony is Manchester sold itself out on the culture and then destroyed the conditions that created that culture." Why was this quote important to you for you to include?
Oh well, this is about the contemporary Manchester. This is about how Manchester has moved on from this idea of promoting the arts, promoting small venues, promoting the opportunity where art can exist. And that art, of course, is bands with lots of rehearsal rooms, with lots of spaces, lots of venues that they can actually turn up and play in. And with the with the removal of Hume, which was an area where people could go with relatively small rents, so people, working class people, could go there and live within a city centre area and be able to thrive. And if they were artistic, they would have an opportunity to be in the city centre. Now, the all of that's been scrapped, and the rents have gone up so much that those people who would want to live as artists, not earning very much, can simply not thrive in that area. They have to live miles outside the country, or they have to work as gosh, they have to work as regular jobs as I do, which is sort of I'm lucky enough to be a university tutor, a university lecturer, but then I'm quite old, so I've built up to that over years and years.
Right, right.
But the point is, um, because those environments don't exist anymore, people can't come into the city centre and live anymore
Mhm.
unless they are prepared to pay uh, two £2,500 a month for their
Yeah,
rent.
yeah,
And for a lot of people, that £2,500 a month is their entire salary.
yeah,
So of course you have to live way outside. So that scene cannot exist
yeah,
because all those people do not meet. And
yeah,
that's why I mentioned that quote, Joey, because I thought it was a very important observation uh, by the author, who said that, you know, the capitalism and the landlords have created a scenario whereby we simply creativity is not allowed to thrive as it did in the 80s. I was very lucky because I was in that environment and I thrived. But
yeah,
you know, a lot of people can't do that anymore.
yeah.
So
No,
I've spent my entire life of 44 years here in Austin, Texas, and I've seen a lot of our culture sold out to gentrification. Yet they still tout our city as being the live capital music of the world, which I no longer stand behind. From the decimation of historic music venues to the massive commercialization of South by Southwest, just to name a few things, it feels like our culture has been sold out as well. They started having noise ordinances. I can remember about 10 years ago seeing The Cure in Zilker Park, and their entire sound got cut off right in the middle of Boys Don't Cry, right at 10 p.m. curfew during ACL Fest. So they couldn't even tell us goodbye for this massive crowd, and they just had to wave. It feels rather sad that when a city, they're so proud of their culture, yet it does so much to place limitations around it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know it's that's one of the sad things. This is it's a the whole point of an artist, in order to say what they want to say, uh, there should be these parameters. And why these parameters exist, I don't know. There should be the people who set up these venues, set up these arenas and these events should know full well that this is an event. This is something that is important to the whole culture of
Mm.
the city, of the neighborhood, of the whole art scene, the whole music scene of that area, and to belittle it and to destroy it in such a way is really quite appalling and sad. And you know, did they not get paid? I'm sure everyone got handsomely paid. The
Yeah.
fact that this scenario happened and this whole situation occurred is one of those. I would say deeply depressing, but totally unavoidable situation,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's all kind of cyclic as well. I mean, the or cyclic. I prefer cyclic. Um, we have that going on in Seattle. I think we've got it going on in all the places that have been major art hubs. And I think it's something that just keeps kind of coming around. You find a creative hub, the prices are low. I remember in 80s Seattle, all I wanted to do was have a nice low income job, a nice low income apartment, someplace where I could spend all of my time, all of my energy, and all of my thought on creating art
Mm.
and nothing else. And I could have a little fucking menial labor job to make just enough money to pay for my little crappy apartment, and I was happy. I was
Yeah.
happy. I was hungry. Working all the time on art and music. And then the city starts realizing it's sort of a cultural mecca of some kind, and then the big money starts coming in, and soon you don't have all the people that made it that are
Mm.
pushed to the wayside, and that's really sad. But I am seeing in Seattle that there's sort of a resurgence. There's a sort of subversive artistic desire to push back against the massive growth. We've kind of become a tech town out here, and well, this is long standing actually, but I do see more underground dance stuff. I know that back in the 90s I did help with financing on some of the speakeasies that happened so that we could have after hours stuff and people coming in and playing and places for bands to be. And I hope that as time passes and the world continues to be as fucked up as it's continuing to be, I mean it's almost like a mirror of 1980 right now in that regard in some ways. And I'm
Mm.
liking the idea that there are kids pushing back so hard against this. It's a beautiful fucking thing. And that it's only able to sustain itself so long before the whole thing collapses, and then we're back to where we can, you know, make art and have fun again. So I don't know.
No, no, you're absolutely right. I'm I've noticed that as almost as if that they feel that there's the juxtaposition to this, or the counter to this, is that create lots of music schools. We
Mm,
have this music school in Manchester called BIM, which is British music of Ireland and England. And it's a very good thing, and it teaches people how to be musicians from perspective of creating pop music.
mm,
And various other universities around us have their music courses, which teach people how to play music and learn about how to be uh, efficient in social media and how to create an online profile and try and make it in the pop world.
mm.
But I mean, there's a certain despair there that
Yeah.
um, While yes, it's worthy, and yes, people should know this information. Um, uh, what they don't teach is the fact that uh, it's how should we say, it's 90% talent and 10% luck. Sorry, it's 10% talent
It's
and
90%.
90% luck.
Yeah.
You know, you could be amazing, you could be fantastic, you could be gorgeous, you could look amazing, you could be the most extraordinary talent, and you could have the most original thoughts and brilliant music.
Yeah.
But if you're overlooked
Yeah.
just for that moment and someone else comes in and takes that spot,
Yeah.
then all of your efforts are basically written in the sand
Yeah.
and washed away. It's and this is something I don't teach you at music school. But to go back to your point of creating an environment whereby it's actually a situation that is going to allow people to really want to invest in it and believe in it. I'm not convinced that there's that much available. Certainly in Manchester, I can speak for Manchester. There are rehearsal rooms, and there are people who want to play in bands, and there are people who want to make their own music. But at the same time, it's getting less and less. And
Yeah.
I've noticed more and more the bands that are playing that are homegrown are tribute bands. They are bands who are playing the Stone Roses and the Smiths and the Charlatans and Oasis. You know, they're going out and they're playing other people's bands because they know that there'll be an audience there and they will be paid £300 for their show.
Yeah.
And all of these people, I know for a fact, want to have their own bands and want to create their own sound,
Yeah.
but they simply don't
It's
have
all about
the
making that little
wherewithal
bit
to
of
do it.
scratch to be able to. Yeah.
Exactly. And this, I mean, I was so lucky because in 1983, 84, when I was doing it, there was no question of being a tribute band. There was no question. You just went out there and you did your thing. We had the punk spirit.
Yeah.
And we were very lucky, and things were very cheap in those days. We didn't have to pay expensive rents, and everything was very cheap. And we just did it. And we were at university where we didn't have to pay grants. We didn't have to pay the. We were given a grant to
Yeah.
live. It was
Yeah.
madness, you know. It was such a perfect scenario. It was a perfect storm or a perfect calm, if you like, because
Yeah.
we were so able to do this. And nowadays, there's absolutely no chance of doing it. And there's a big big backlash at the moment about the music industry in the UK is saying that the only people who can afford to make music is people from a wealthy background who have trust funds, who have the wherewithal whereby they can survive without making any money because they can exist. And it's a real shame because we're losing so many amazing roots of rock and roll and working class ideals, which are simply not getting through. I mean, they thankfully they will come through, but it's less and less each year.
We
Um,
have to look harder for the good stuff, that's for sure. Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
That's
And
right.
I'm hoping that there will be opportunities. These music schools will actually promote more of these musicians and allow them to actually thrive. Uh, but then again, there's this other thing about people are reluctant to actually play live more and more because they're not getting paid. Uh, so, you know, I really hope it's not just going to be an online
Yeah.
streaming.
Well,
Um,
we've got awesome people like Martin Atkins out there that
yeah. Oh,
he's
yeah.
an
Great guy.
incredible educator and an incredible champion of the
Mm,
DIY sort of mentality and and the people Chicago is insanely cool for this kind of stuff. It's kind of like it feels to me like they've kind of kept their heart in that regard. And it's because
mm,
of people like Martin and you got like Curse Mackey and Anya from Ayatoya. They very much engage with their fans. A lot of the stuff they're still doing is DIY. And I mean, they're working on the superficial promotional side of things, but they're still down and dirty, gritty artists as well. And I love that that still comes through. And there's a lot of talent out there for that. We've got some people that are running festivals in different places. I think we've got, is it Jason Novak with Cold Waves,
Yes.
Joey,
Yeah.
and we've got Ollie with Mechanismus out here, and these people are fostering this kind of desire to keep a place for somebody to play,
Yeah.
keep engaged, and and I hope that this is going to be a good continuing thing. I know that the Mechanismus Festival this year I'm helping to take part in it too, and financially it's just this stuff is getting where even the people that are trying to do this are finding themselves burdened by the financial aspects of it, and that's why I say it's not really some of this desire for growth and money is not sustainable. It's
No.
eventually it's gonna piss out, like the Reagan Thatcher years, and who knows? This may open up a cauldron full of just brilliant fucking artists pouring out over the next few years. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
I mean, as bleak as things are, that's where I'm putting my energy is hoping for something like that and doing everything I can to promote it. So,
Mm. I'm actually my son, who is 12, plays drums with a mate of his who's also 12, who plays guitar. They're a two-piece, and they are actually playing gigs, and it's so exciting to see
oh
them.
my God.
And me and the other guy's dad are kind of helping them out here, and I've set up a drum kit in my cellar down next door to where we are here, and he plays, and they rehearse and they play. It's funny. It's a bit embarrassing because me and his dad are sort of in our sixties. We're getting to play things like we're getting to play things like Teenage Kicks
Yeah.
and the Buzzcock songs and Ramones songs,
Oh man.
because in a way it's easy, but it's really effective, amazing songwriting
Yeah.
that not I wouldn't say anyone can do, but a lot of people can do well. But also once you get the spirit of it, once you get the soul of that playing live, and that's that simple but basic brilliance that of those three bands did, it inspires you and they've done three gigs now, and they've been amazing. It's like hearing two 12-year-olds play Teenage Kicks, even though they're not even teenagers. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh
it's
my God, that's
extraordinary.
awesome. Well, we may
You
have to
know,
have them on, man.
well, but just amazing. And um, so I mean, I think I'm kind of biased to it because this is the kind of thing if I was 12, I wish my dad
Yeah.
had inspired me in that, but he was
Yeah.
interested totally different things. So of course he would
Yeah.
never have done that. But I didn't pick up a guitar till I was 14.
Yeah.
So uh, and the Ramones' first album. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Oh
But
my God, that's
what was my point? My point was that I think what's interesting is a lot of the bands that are starting up are playing simple rock and roll, punk rock tunes like that. Because if you listen to a lot of contemporary music, you can't pick up a guitar and play along to it so much
yeah.
because it's either hip hop or it's 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 dance music or stuff, and it doesn't quite have that sort of. I mean, obviously, country music does, but that's a different thing altogether. I don't think people are attracted to country music from the UK so much,
Yeah.
but and they're very much they don't have that sense of understanding how music works because they hear digital
Mhm.
synthesizers, they hear drum beats, they hear all these things, but they don't hear the kind of guitar sounds that you need to form a band.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing to a lot of people when they listen to Radio One in the UK, or a lot
Yeah.
of chart music, the top 40. The top 40, you don't hear a guitar so much. I mean, thankfully, hopefully it's coming back, but it's a difficult
Yeah.
thing.
There's a You may have it out. Actually, I know you'll have it out there. KEXP .org for streaming. It is a listener powered radio station, and it's
Yes.
worldwide, based out of Seattle. And I proud contributor and amplifier for KEXP for well since back in the '80s, actually. And yeah, so I just heard a new band, well, not a new band, a new to me band. What is it? Descartes X Cant or X Kant the other day. It's got computerized, but still they've got the scratching guitars.
Mm.
It's kind of like early Devo in a way, but just brilliant stuff. And I hear a lot of really good stuff coming out of KEXP all the time. It's pretty much always on where I am. And so I mean, I think we've got a shot. I think we've got a shot.
Yeah, I mean, we have a radio station called BBC Six Music here, which
Mhm.
isn't bad, but unfortunately they very much rely on the major labels to drive them on. But every now and again, these really interesting bands come through, and they give them what's called sessions, where they are allowed to come on onto the station and play live. They
Yeah,
play 3 or 4 tracks
yeah,
live, and that's one of the most exciting things
yeah,
because, of course, they have to play live, so they have to play use guitars and drums and keyboards. So you
yeah,
have the sense of all of that production has now been pared down to something that people can understand. Wow, you can
yeah,
actually do that by playing just in a rehearsal room and make it happen. It's
yeah,
not this amazing sort of this unapproachable magical sound
yeah,
that we hear. So
yeah,
it brings it down. It demystifies it into
yeah,
some sense that I could do that, which is what, of course, for me, punk rock was all about. When you
yeah,
heard, three chord songs, you
yeah.
thought, I can do that.
I can do that.
And I think when a young audience can actually identify with that and say, you know what? I have something to say, and I want to say it with music, and I want to say it in 3 chords or whatever the equivalent is today. You know, now we have a whole new generation. We have a whole new movement. I was talking to I was. I'll bore you here for a second. I am a tutor at the Manchester Film School, and I was trying to explain to my students about how um, things come in waves, about filmmaking comes in waves from the expressionists to the film noir to all these things. And I said, in music, though, I said this music is far more interesting because in music there hasn't been a big revolution of music for ages. And they looked at me and went, what? But there's hip hop. I said, no, no, no. Hip hop was back in 1988,
Yeah.
1990. And they
Mhm.
go, oh, but no. And they said, drum and bass. I said, no, no, no. Drum
No.
and bass was 1995.
Yeah.
And they go, and I said, no, honestly. And I gave them this kind of thing that if you look at, rock and roll was 1956, and then you had psychedelia in 1966, then you had punk rock in 77, then you had acid house in 88, and you had, by about 1999, you had the compilation album.
Yeah.
you know, I've missed out obviously hip hop and
Yeah.
drum and bass and all the important things there. But the point is, there hasn't been something for such a long time. The noughties or the 2000s, we've had 25 years of the year 2000, and
Yeah.
really hasn't been something that you could specifically say has changed the world of music.
No,
Uh,
you really can't.
to the same extent
That's a
that
very good
punk,
point.
rave,
Yeah.
psychedelia, uh, drum and bass, hip hop did,
Yeah.
or even disco, if like from the 70s. All of those things happened a long time ago, and we've come to this melting pot where literally it has melted into this big gloop whereby everyone regurgitates the same things over and over again. I mean, I'm not saying anything new here, but it's very difficult to explain to young people to say they because they really want to invent and create something that is totally fresh and amazing. And I'm saying, please do,
Yeah.
because I'd
Right.
love to see that.
Hmm.
And um, I break it all down, destroy it, and start again. I don't
Yeah.
know how you do it, but that's something that I want to be alive before I
Yeah.
go. I want to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. No doubt. I'm right there with you. Absolutely.
Excuse me. So Ghost Mechanic 9 is a title track off your latest album that makes
Yeah.
it begin with an extremely powerful opening.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about the inspiration for the song and why you tied it into the album's title?
Yeah. Well, the word mechanic comes from our first album. We had a song in the first album which was called Rumble, which was what was it called? It was called um I can't say something else. Um, anyway, it was called Grease Mechanic, and the idea was Ghost Mechanic 9 is the ninth studio album, and we wanted to recreate um, some of the sounds from that first album, and sorry, Greaseball Mechanic it was called, and um, and so we thought, right, let's reintroduce Mechanic so we can go full circle to a certain extent from 1 to 9, from 9 albums. I don't know why it's 9, but that's why I got the album's called Nine. It has 9 songs on it, and um, it was an opportunity for us to try and create that kind of rhythmic sound. But of course, it doesn't sound exactly like some of the songs we did on the first album. But then again, it has that sense of a driving force of nature that we wanted to create. And I think it was far more aggressive and visceral than the previous few albums, which were exploring more sort of tuneful areas. It was, to use a kind of a Clash example, it was less, it was the previous albums were more kind of Sanstanista, whereas this album wanted to be the first Clash album,
Ah,
and so we wanted to get back down to what we were doing. I don't know how successful we were because you start off with these great ideas. You
yeah.
start off thinking this is what it's going to be like, but of course, once you've been in the studio for a couple of years or so and you've tweaked it and everything, often it comes out. But having said that, I'm really pleased with what we did because I'm really happy with the sound of it.
Yeah.
Um, we actually we said, right, only 9 records, 9 songs, and we actually had about 14 songs. And I was saying to the others, I said, can we just add another one? I said, no, it's Ghost Mechanic 9, and but this one's
Nine,
really
nine,
good.
nine,
Can we just,
nine,
yes,
nine.
can we just add this one? And they said, no, Ghost Mechanic 9. It's 9 songs.
Yeah.
So there are songs that we've got which I don't know what we'll do with them, quite honestly, because um, we may be bored with them by the time we go back through. But it doesn't matter. But to answer your question, it was a record that we really wanted to set as a kind of an amalgamation of the early stuff we did to get back to a sense of quite strong and visceral to a certain extent, but some powerful music.
Yeah.
Um, not neglecting everything in between, but it was just an opportunity to be really excited about where we began, which is why I made the documentary
Yeah.
about us where we started, because I wanted to give a sense of the journey we begin on. I mean, we've actually got dub tracks on the on Ghost Mechanic 9.
Yeah.
we loved dub back in the 80s. We would
Oh my
love to have done a
God.
dub
Right.
track,
Yeah.
but we didn't feel we kind of deserved to. So we never did. And we should have done. Ah,
Yeah.
what a missed opportunity. But there you
Yeah.
go.
But no, this album is fucking fantastic from start to finish. It feels
Oh,
very
thank you.
familiar too. I mean, I've got a serious soft spot in my heart for Batcave music, for the old,
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah. And this just it takes me back. Well, it's a beautiful thing, and I sat here, especially the dub stuff last night. I was sitting here in the dark, kind of working on the questions for the show a little bit, and the dub stuff in particular, it kind of took me back. What what is what is one of your favorite dub tracks?
I just bought one of my favorite dresses. I bought a copy of LKJ in dub, which is Linton Kwesi Johnson in dub, which I bought whenever it came out in 1980. And it's a Dennis Bovell um, dub album. It's all dub.
Oh my
Sorry,
God!
there you go.
Wow.
And it's absolutely, and unfortunately, I bought it from Germany, and unfortunately, it cost me 31 quid, and it's scratched.
No, no, no,
I
no.
know, I
Oh
know.
my
What a shame. But it's
man.
such a good record.
Yeah.
I actually also I bought the where's it gone? I got oh there we go. I had to buy it on CD as well.
Yeah. Most of my vinyl I also have on CD. That way I can burn it and put it on my phone and
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Because
but
I
that's
own
one of my favorite dub records, and I've got myself a copy because I tracked it down and everything. But that very much was a template, if you like, for what we did with the Opium dub, and also to a certain extent what was it called? Uh, I've forgotten the name of the track. Yeah, the something of Broken Dreams, the
oh,
exhaust of
it was
Broken
the
Dreams.
Broken Dream. Yes.
Yeah, very much that kind of sound of the pared down dub Dennis Bovell sound. And this, of course, is we're talking analog kind of dub from the 70s and 80s, which is I like. Um, I mean, you can actually recreate it digitally, but the idea of this tape loop going whoa, 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 whoa,
Yep.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful sounds. It's funny because at the moment we're actually in the middle of making another album, which is called um, Inca. Sorry, it's called Reincarnated.
Oh, cool.
Here is the file of Reincarnated. It's
Nice.
got all the songs in it.
Oh man, cool.
Um, and we've taken old songs and we are dub making them sort of dubby, if you like.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but some of them, because it's something we're really interested in. Having done that with Ghost Mechanic 9, I think the dub effects on that were really exciting. And
Yeah.
Simon Ding Archer, who is our
Yeah.
producer, is really into it. We were in there, we were in the studio the other day, and I said to him, Ding, we're doing this, and we're going to rely on you to dub it up. And he goes, and his whole eyes lit, and he went, fantastic.
Oh, right
And
on.
he's very excited about that sort of thing. So yeah.
God, that's awesome. That is awesome. So yeah,
Yes.
actually that now that you mention it, the exhaust of Broken Dreams is that song is so damn hypnotic. And
Oh,
the
God, I really like that one.
layered vocals in particular. What and where and from where are you releasing to perform the vocals on this?
um, well, it's funny because it reminded me of a song by the was it the Butthole Surfers called Pepper?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember
Oh,
that song?
yes, I
Yeah, they
do.
blew up. Yeah,
And
figured.
I heard it for the first time I don't know, only 10 years ago, which was probably 10 years after it was released.
Yeah.
And the idea, and it was such a wonderful song. And I thought, oh my God, that was me when I lived in Hume that at that time,
Yeah.
the fact that this idea of the exhaust of broken dreams, where people would walk around and you'd smell kind of uh, either their constant kind of cannabis intake, or the smell of crack, or the smell of all
Mhm.
these horrible drugs they were taking, and it was the exhaust, or the smell of broken dreams. It was the idea of late deliveries and forgotten promises and all these kind of things. And when I heard the song Pepper, and I thought, wow, my God, I wrote that in Hume, but I never actually made any sense of it until I heard the Butthole Surface track, and I thought, oh my God, that was it, isn't it? It's funny. I mean, not to rip them off or anything, or to steal from them, but
No,
it sometimes it takes
yeah.
a realization when you've heard somebody else's expression and somebody
Mhm.
else's evaluation of it, that you can then make
There's
sense of your own experiences.
yeah, there's just so much emotion in that one, and
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, that explains it. That explains a lot. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
The second song off the album, Insect Symphony, is an homage to bands that are no longer with us. Can you speak
Yeah.
more on this song and the specific bands you're paying respect to?
Oh well, I mean, if you listen to it, you've got a bit of Stooges there, you know. Uh, and again, the Stooges, there's pretty much only Iggy left, isn't there, really? And then you've got the kind of the idea of a kind of a driving guitar like the Ramones, and there's none of them left. And
yeah.
then you've got Bye Bye Human Fly, and of course the Cramps, they're all gone,
Yeah.
you know. And then you've got elements of down, which is the Gun Club.
Mhm.
The Gun Club, they're gone.
Yeah.
They could never come back again. And then,
Mhm.
of course, there's the sticky sort of um, the percussion bits of things like the pop group. They could
Oh,
never come back again. And then, of course, eventually you've got elements of the birthday party,
yeah.
and they could never come back again because, well, Nick, of course, is alive and well. His band are no longer with
Yeah.
us. So, in a way, I mean, I hope it doesn't sound too corny or too kind of derivative or anything, but the elements of that song was like not so much a tribute, but a capturing the spirit
Yeah.
of a lot of those things that I loved. Absolutely love those bands, all the bands I mentioned,
Mhm.
and I wanted this song to sound a bit of a little bit of everything, but
Yeah.
without being too dismissive or anything like that.
Mhm.
So you start off with all these little bits, and Stooges, Cramps, Gun Club, Birthday Party, pop group, all these elements, Ramones, and these bands that they can never come back because they've all gone.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame, and these guys weren't very old, at the same
No.
time, when you consider that the Ramones were all gone before they were even 60.
Yeah.
um, the Cramps, again, they all died before they were 60 or so. I mean, there's uh, Poison Ivy's still around, but they were all those the guys in there. They've all gone, and I love the Cramps. They were
Yeah.
just one of my absolute favorite bands.
Oh,
So in
they're
a way, the vocal had to be
freaking brilliant
a
at what they
tribute
were.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
Lux Interior.
Yeah.
Harry,
Man.
what is it about all these bands that resonate so heavily with you?
Well, I guess it's my age. Let's face it. I was brought up very much in the punk era, and the first album that I really loved was the first Damned album.
Hmm.
Uh, and the first Damned album was kind of, but the first was still kind of like fairly rock and roll. But then I heard the Ramones album, and that wasn't, because that had pared it right down, and it didn't have all of the frills of guitar solos and posturing and bandstanding. It was like the most basic, but at the same time pure driving force. And that was what I think was the thing that totally corrupted me, if you like, because I used to listen to Led Zeppelin, and I used to listen to Pink Floyd, and I used to listen to Bad Company and Thin Lizzy and Black Sabbath, nothing wrong with those bands. But when I heard the Ramones, it was like, get rid of those, tear the posters off the walls, sell the vinyl,
Yeah.
and listen to the Damned and the Ramones and the Clash and the Pistols. And
Godspeed to Brian James too.
and I'm Brian James. Yeah, I was so lucky to see. I went to see him 2 years ago. The Damned played at in Manchester, and they played the first album,
Yeah.
and it was brilliant. The whole of the first album. Brian James, he was a bit unsteady on his feet, but he played the whole gig, and he was brilliant. You know, it was fantastic. Um, but to answer Joey's question, the I think if you look at the first punk bands, the ones I mentioned, the Damned, the Clash, Pistols, and the Ramones, were amazing. But then, literally a few years later, 1979, 1980, you've got the pop group, you've got the Cramps, and you've got the Gun Club, and you've got the Birthday Party. Uh, it's not a huge jump, but suddenly you've got a kind of finesse towards some different straggling kind of explosion of the same spirit, but it's now going off into this ragged area of of noise, and you're almost escaping melody, because punk was still about melody. But now these bands are using the punk spirit, but they're almost going away from melody. They're actually using uh, the kind of expressive force that says, we don't need to sing you a song. We just need to provide this extraordinary energy that provides a message that is without melody. And I love that. The pop group, they were basically a funk band
Yeah.
that refused to actually sing songs so much as drive this
Yeah.
stake into you. The
They were
Birthday Party was
freaking
about a
amazing.
poet blasting out this kind of angst
Yeah.
about, I'm gonna die at any minute.
Yeah.
And the Cramps was a rockabilly song, a rockabilly band
Right.
playing just sort of 12 bar blues in
Yeah.
this rather random kind of don't eat stuff off the sidewalk kind
Yeah.
of, and it was brilliant, and
Yeah.
that for someone who, how old would I have been? I would have been 15, 16. That's the age your mind is blown.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, you could never go home
Yeah.
after that,
Oh, yeah.
because you have taken the what is it? The gods have given you the
Yeah.
nectar
Yeah.
of revolution, and you
Yeah.
can never go back.
Like
And
the first time I
and
heard
that
the
was it.
album Collapse by Einstürzende Neubauten, it was like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Again, another band, Einstürzende Neubauten. Yeah, I saw them a couple of times in the 80s. And again, I'm sat there going, wow,
right, right, yeah,
how how do they dare do this?
yeah.
Because there's no there's no tunes, there's no well, there are tunes, but
And
not
still,
the traditional sense.
it's all,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, yeah.
And again, I saw the Swans at the same time when they were
Mhm.
doing the what was that album called? The first album with things like Thug and
Uh, is
Cop,
that film?
and and it was just this assault,
I
and I've
can't remember.
never known anything like it. There's this just like,
Yeah,
and it was amazing. And that was about 1980 something or other.
yeah,
It's about the same time that I think Throbbing Gristle were doing something similar.
yeah.
But again, and nowadays, of course, again to answer Joey's uh, question, you do not see bands that are prepared to go out and perform art as opposed to pop.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are thankfully there are a few bands that go against that, but very, very few. When I was going to gigs in the 80s, and you saw about you wouldn't expect bands to play pop, but you'd be really excited and you'd be really interested in what they had to offer. And if they came on and they just offered a wall of noise for an hour, you'd nod and go, hmm. And then you'd decide whether that wall of noise was any good,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, this isn't pop, or this isn't news, or what I expect to hear. You know,
Yeah.
we had a more of a sense of accepting and being aware that this was something that they were experimenting with, and this is art. This was something that they had something to say that wasn't the mainstream. And sadly to say, you don't hear that anymore. You don't see it. You can't. If you go to a gig, you'll probably see a pop band playing. Um, as opposed to some band that is doing something experimental and
Mhm.
uh, pushing the boundaries of what music can do, even if it is music. I didn't really care if it wasn't music, quite honestly. The number
Yeah.
of bands I saw that just later gave you a wall of noise for an
Yeah.
hour. And, you know, to me, if they were doing it in an interesting way, I remember seeing what they called, oh, they played recently in Manchester. Oh, I've totally forgotten. The guy came on stage and he chopped wood for a bit for 15 minutes. What are they called? I can't believe I've forgotten it. Anyway, they've been around. Not Neubaum. Anyway, um, but you know that kind of band would come on and they would just do this thing and they would just blow your minds, and you'd go, "Wow!" And you'd go with it because there was performance, there was theatre, there was all these extra elements of the arts, the seven arts,
Yeah.
uh, and you would go with it. Whereas now we are far more restricted
I
in
remember
what
seeing
we expected to hear.
the George Clinton and the P Funk All Stars for the first
Mm.
time back in 1985, maybe.
Wow, yeah,
And holy shit. Yeah, just there's just a massive amount
Lieback.
on stage.
Right.
Leibach, yes. Oh my God, yes.
Yes,
Oh
so that's what I
man.
meant to say, Lieback.
Yeah.
Um,
I hope they are going to come to town again soon because yeah.
and they do, and they will go on stage, and they
Yeah.
will not um, play anything that is considered pleasing.
Yeah.
They they shun melody.
Yeah.
They throw their arms up at the idea of harmony, and they
Yeah.
go, "No, you've come to this platform watch us, and we will do this particular
Yeah.
performance." And I think that's right, and I think it's
Yeah.
important that
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Oh man, how awesome is that?
yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of the sonic assault kind of wall of sound, um, the horns on Ghost Mechanic 9 are fucking impeccable. Um, can you please introduce us to the band?
So the horns.
Oh yeah.
Do you mean on the
Um,
song different song, isn't it? It's like I'm Staying Put.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a trumpet player called Kevin Davey.
Yeah.
Kevin G. Davey, indeed. And look him up on Spotify. He's this extraordinary um, jazz trumpet player. And I was lucky enough. I should have mentioned him in the film I did of Hume, because he was my next door neighbor, and we go way, way, way back to the 80s.
Yeah.
And he used to do these jazz workshops in a pub, whereby he would have a kind of a jamming session, and he'd invite people around, and he would play. He's totally obsessed by Miles Davis. If you
Yeah.
listen to anything he does, listen to if you go on Spotify or his Bandcamp site and listen to his amazing record, which is actually called 81 Miles from Hume. So
Ah,
he is totally that's his background. But anyway, he has played trumpet on a lot of our records because he gets it. I send him stuff down the line by WeTransfer. I said, listen to this. This is kind of a rhythm track. Can you put some kind of beautiful bluesy, but at the
mhm.
same time sharp, and yet give me some Miles Davis elements and maybe a bit of John Coltrane on it, and he'll sort of all these boxes he'll tick, and he'll
Yeah.
send me 3 tracks of all these sort of elements of it to, and then I'll mix it together. And he's fantastic. He's just one of the greatest. He's actually touring America. Oh, sorry, he's touring the world at the moment. I think he's in South America with a
Oh,
band called Samandi, who are
okay.
a 70s kind, a British 70s kind of uh, jazz funk dance band, and he plays trumpet for them, and they've had a recent resurgence. So he's going around the world with them, which is fantastic. Which annoying really because I actually have a track that I wanted to play on, so I'm going to have to wait for him to come back before. I can play. But hey, I don't want to spoil his career. So yeah, he is amazing, and the track that you're talking about is I'm staying put
Hmm.
was based on a another jazz record which was by James Blood Ulmer, an American guitarist who had this track called TV Blues. And I loved it so much, and I've been sitting on it because the record was released in 1980, and
Yeah.
I've been sitting on it for that long. How long ago is that? 1980.
Oh,
That's
long.
45 years
Yeah, it's a scary
wanting
long
to do a
time.
version, and I actually got in touch with the publishers, uh, and I said, "Can I do this? Please, 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 let me do a version of this because I've been wanting to do this, and I've worked it out exactly what I want to do, and it's taken 45 years." And they sort of went, "Okay, then, but let us hear what you've done." And I sent them a copy of it, and they went, "Oh, wow,
Oh,
that's
right
really
on.
good." Oh, the only person I wanted to hear from was James Blood Ulmer, but unfortunately, I don't think he ever got a copy. I think he's quite old and infirm now, so I don't know whether he would have heard it yet. But I'm hoping at some stage he will hear it and either say yes or but I'm hoping he'll say yes. But
I'm sure
very
he
much in
will.
his the spirit
Yeah.
of what he's all about, and the record that he made, which was the record that it came from. Great title. It's called "Jazz is the Teacher and Funk is the Preacher,"
Mm,
and that was
I like
the
that.
record on
Yeah.
Rough Trade in 1980.
Yeah.
And that was
That's a great
something.
label. That was a great label. Rough
Yeah,
Trade. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Can you
So yeah.
speak a bit about the band's recording sessions for John Peel's BBC radio program?
Yeah. Um, we did 4 sessions, and I remember the first session was the most eye-opening one because we went down and we rehearsed our songs so well so that we knew exactly what we were going to play, and we knew exactly how we were going to put them all together. And the engineer, sorry, not the engineer, the producer was a guy called Dale Griffin, who was the drummer from Mott the Hoople, which is an amazing kind of 60s, 70s bands
Yeah.
from the UK. And he was the drummer, Dale Griffin. And he was horrified at we turned up with this equipment that was basically barely functional. My amplifier basically worked but buzzed, and the guitar amp was sorry, the bass amp was okay, but the drum kit he was horrified
Oh my
that
God.
there's these bits of drums that were falling apart. But he turned that session into the most amazing production. It was like we'd gone into previous sessions whereby we'd used little 8-track machines and we'd done these little sort of little guitar songs, and then he went out and it's like wow. And we listened to it back and we were just blown away. We walked out of the studios with our jaws open going, oh. And the thing was, what was the most amazing thing was that he gave us the belief that to say that I bet you didn't know you were capable of that.
Oh, wow.
And that just was extraordinary because unless you actually go into a proper studio and you are given the full perspective and the full amount of possibilities of the equipment and a great producer and their experience and all that. And we went back and we just went, oh my God. And we
Oh,
suddenly, we're sort of walking around going, hey, we're actually quite good now.
yeah.
So it was fantastic for us. It was it. We did another three after that,
Yeah.
three peel sessions, but that first one was the one that absolutely blew our minds and um, gave us a sense that actually what we're doing is quite good.
Yeah.
Uh, I suppose rightly or wrongly,
Yeah.
that's how
And
we felt at the time.
well, I can imagine getting to work with Del Griffin would have been a just mind-boggling. That's
Oh, it was
awesome.
great, really great to work
Yeah.
with him. Yeah.
So, Harry, what is your first memory of art having a visceral effect on you?
Art in general or music?
Art in general, music, whatever. Your first,
Um,
yeah.
well, I have to say my first real impression of art, I suppose, would be the theatre,
Hmm,
and actually seeing people um, coming on stage and exploding in front of you. And I had this this idea that if you're in a band, you should actually have a sense of theatre about you as well, because having watched the theatre and people perform, I think it's very important that if you're in a band, there should be an element of performance. And I know it's quite fashionable to just stand on stage dressed in your the clothes that you basically woke up on, your pajamas, if you like, and
yeah,
just play there and just be very quiet and just sing all of that. But then again, that's fine, and uh, you've got some good songs. You do that. But I always thought, no. And I was lucky enough to be brought up with by watching Bauhaus
yeah,
and watching the Cramps and watching the Birthday Party and watching all those punk bands. But the whole point of it was to explode on stage
yeah,
and just to go completely bonkers. And it was almost less about playing the instruments perfectly as to performing to
mhm,
this massive extent. And I actually was I did a session because we have a music school right close to us, and they asked me to talk about performing live. And I said, okay, you want to perform live? How are you preparing for it? And a lot of the bands there were going, oh, we're just going to turn up, we're going to play, we're going to play. I said, no, no, no. I said,
yeah,
this is a process.
yeah,
This is a very long and meticulous process. What are you wearing? Who is introducing you before you go on the stage? So you're actually a entity. You don't just shamble on stage and start plugging in. You've done all that before. Someone comes up to stage and says, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the greatest rock and roll band ever, or whatever nonsense you want to say. Please let me introduce you to the Inca Babies. And
yeah,
we'd always get someone to do this. I know it sounds crass, but at the same time, the audience would then look at us and then we would perform,
yeah,
you know, as opposed to the rather sort of negative approach of turning. And also, I think you're going to look good, even if everyone wears black.
yeah,
It shows you've made an effort. It shows that you're actually there to be something that's going to impress upon an audience. That you are not just a bunch of session musicians who've turned up. This is their this is my day job. No, this is something that you do because it's in your fucking heart.
yeah.
And I think that's important. Um, so yeah, it's absolutely essential that the performance is got to be uh, not
Good.
so much rock and roll, but it's supposed to be an artistic. But at the same time, it's got to be theatrical, and to a certain extent, you've got to the singer has to convey something that is almost, you're not, it's not so much, oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heavens of invention. You're not quoting Shakespeare, but the
Yeah.
point is you're actually giving a performance that is something outside of a conversation, and it's more about this great, not so much great, that's probably a bit of going beyond, but it's this important thing that goes beyond just the normal and the domestic.
Yeah. Excellent.
You did the artwork for the cover of Ghost Mechanic 9. How do you feel this is reflective of the record?
Well, if you can find a skull and you can create a sense of foreboding, and you can create a sense of your own mortality, and you can have a sense of how should we say, skulls sell, I suppose.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I mean, if I just pick up this particular picture,
Mhm.
is the beauty of it is that it was a piece of graffiti. um you can see that. Oh, you're backwards. But anyway, it says sleeve art, spray can, skull, unknown graffito, Athens, Greece. When we played a gig in Athens,
Yeah.
and I saw this piece of graffiti or graffito, and I
Yeah.
thought, wow, that's amazing. I took a picture of it.
Yeah.
And what is it now? That was 2013. No, 2025. Years later, and you do those things whereby you put it into Google and you try and get as many people to recognize, to come back to you and say, oh yes, that's my piece of art, so you can credit them. But
Yeah.
nothing. And I reckon what happened was, because it was on just a building, it probably got painted over very shortly after it was sprayed. And the beauty of it is that it has these drips and it
Yeah.
has these lovely things, and it's an absolutely gorgeous bit of work, and
Really
it's
is.
a brilliant piece of spray can art, and it'll never be appreciated. I mean, hopefully one day someone will come up to me and go, I did that, in which case I can repress the album with and give them a credit,
That
because
would be awesome.
I would have I would have loved it. But no, the artwork was not mine. I stole it, but I was desperate to give someone a credit
Yeah.
to it. It was literally a photograph that I took, and which is why I say I credited unknown graffito, Athens, Greece,
Yeah.
in the hope that somebody will come forward, and
Yeah.
if they do, then I will quite happily pay them for the artwork. I mean, I don't know how much they'll ask me for, but hopefully it'll be something that I can afford.
Yeah.
Um, they'll have to have evidence, though,
Yes.
that it's
Right.
theirs. Yeah.
Yes. No doubt.
Yeah.
So
What was
what was the moment you realized you were an artist?
Uh, I suppose. Um, it was when I think I discovered when I wasn't going to be a sportsman.
Ah,
Although at the same
uh,
time, uh, I, I still think I'm a sportsman now. But no, it was definitely when I realized that music was more important to me than sport, and I realized that I loved, well, I love watching football or soccer,
yeah.
um, and cricket and rugby, and I loved those things. I actually got more enjoyment from playing guitar and writing songs and playing in a band, and I think once you actually that you understand that that's actually does more for your soul than, also I probably wasn't very good at sport, but when you understand that that really does something to you, and it actually moves you far more than any other pastime or hobby you have, suddenly you think, well, I wouldn't say I'm an artist, but I'm a musician.
Mm,
And I think once you acknowledge that you're a musician, you actually have to acknowledge that you're also an artist.
yes, you do.
And I like the fact that what comes with being a musician is again the theatre and the arts in terms of the visual art and all of the elements of poetry and literature and again plays and musicals and film, very much cinema as well. All of those elements come together because you're using them to make music. And that's when it becomes really exciting because then you understand that um, because you can embrace all of those elements, you are now understand what art is. And you can probably call yourself an artist, whether that's pretentious or not, I don't know. But I suddenly felt that because I understood a lot more of these elements of the world of art, that I wasn't just a musician. I had to be an artist as well because I was drawing in so many of these other elements. And I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be all of these things. But you know, we only have talent really often for one thing, or maybe two if we're lucky.
Mhm. So, do you have any advice for the old, young, or in between artist types who are trying to navigate and have an effect on this late stage capitalist dystopia we're in?
I think art is often something that automatically goes against the establishment if you do it from your heart and you do it from a perspective of actually questioning. And once you start to question, then you are creating art that is important, not just agit-prop, but art that will stand out there and people will look at it and hopefully it will start to inspire people. I don't believe that art that is of the mainstream, which doesn't challenge people,
Yeah.
really inspires people. I think people are inspired by art that is difficult. They're inspired by art that actually makes them go, "What's that about? Hang on a minute, what does
Yeah.
that mean?" And that's when it is. If you look at a piece of art and you just go, "Oh," and you move on, then perhaps that's not is not good art.
Yeah.
It's perhaps a bit of wallpaper. But I think once people understand that you can say things and you can actually provide an opportunity for people to stop and listen, or indeed look and question.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited by the fact that we actually had a few people uh, coming back to us on Facebook and Instagram and saying, "Wow, I saw that, and that has actually reminded me about this and where I was then, and has
Yeah.
actually given me an opportunity to question what I was doing at this particular time because it did this to me." And you
Yeah.
think, "Oh, right." I mean, not very political, but at the same time, in terms of personal politics, in terms of personal experiences, in terms of personal um, ideas of self, you know, you're contributing to art in terms of art should change. Art
Yeah.
should be something that allows people to address where they are, I think.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to promote or talk about today with us?
Well, I have this book. No, I don't. Uh, what I'd like to say is watch this space because we have the Inca Babies. That is, we have another record coming out. Not for a while yet, but it's going to be a very interesting record. I'll just tell you what it's called. It's called Reincarnated,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of old songs which we've dubbed up and we've remixed and we've recreated into this really sort of interesting new approach. As I say, lots of dub, lots of slow, kind of melancholic, but at the same time, intense but brilliant, I hope, songs. There'll be about, as I say, reincarnated
Excellent.
album, and it'll be out. I'd like to think end of this year, but if not next year, 2026.
Excellent.
Uh, but anyway, that's something that we're working on at the moment, which is going to be very exciting.
And you are touring or getting ready to go on tour, yeah?
Yes, we are. We've got a few gigs around the UK. We're playing a big festival in Poland. We're playing Return to the Batcave.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
So we're
yes.
playing that. We're hoping to play Whitby Bay, that festival, and we've got one in yeah, well, basically stuff around the UK. We have a promoter who's hopefully going to give us a gig in Berlin. Got to play Berlin again. We haven't played Berlin in ages, so we're hoping for that. So yeah, no, we are very much playing at the moment. So yeah,
Excellent. Okay. Harry, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being here. I
thank
hope
you. It's been great
you're
to
in the
see you.
States at some point. If you get to Seattle, definitely let me know before
Oh,
you get here. I will
in my dreams.
I'll take you and show you around if you're able to get out here. And I will
Oh,
definitely look you up if I get over across, what is it they say? Cross the pond. Yes.
yes,
Okay,
love to
Cable
do it.
Engravers, Ghost Mechanic 9 is available everywhere, including Spotify, Apple Music, and Bandcamp. Also released on vinyl and digitally. It can be ordered via Bandcamp and the Louder Than War shop. Go get some and look for them on the road, and in support of this stellar album. Kiddos, we dedicate this show to our dear friend Jason Lupo. Take a second to appreciate the little things, people. Please be good to each other. Look out for each other. Grace and empathy are valuable, valuable resources right now, and that we can still give them freely is an amazing thing. So let's keep that flowing, please. The world is better with you in it. Love hugs and belly rubs. Cheers.